Why did she always choose the seat in the corner? It wasn't habit. It wasn't preference. It was instinct. The kind you didn't question anymore, the kind carved into your bones by years of training where one blind spot could mean you never came home. Reed carried her tray through the naval mess hall as if she were just another sailor. Eggs, toast, black coffee. She murmured a quiet thank you to the cook, her voice steady, unremarkable. To anyone watching, she blended in perfectly. A logistics specialist, fresh from a transfer, doing her job, starting another ordinary day. But she wasn't ordinary, not by a long stretch. Her eyes, those steady brown eyes, moved constantly. To the casual observer, they flicked across the hall with polite indifference. In reality, every glance was calculation. Exit points, distances, who had weapons, who didn't, where a threat might emerge. She chose her seat deliberately. Back to the wall, clear line of sight to both doors, secondary exit within 10 steps. The coffee cup steamed in front of her. She didn't drink it. Not yet. She knew what this place was. Norfolk, America's largest naval base. Ships and planes everywhere, the heartbeat of power on the Atlantic. But it was also a hunting ground, and she had been sent to find something. Or rather, someone. What no one here knew, what no one could know, was that Reed was not just a logistics specialist. She was the quiet survivor of a program that officially never existed. Project Artemis. The experiment to see if a woman could be built into a Navy SEAL and not just survive the training, but master it. 5 years ago, she had been just a candidate. Mud in her eyes, exhaustion in her blood, lips split from biting back pain. She remembered Hamilton's voice, the instructor who never smiled. Even if you pass, politics may keep you from ever wearing the trident. Do you understand that? And her own reply, whispered through cracked lips, then I'll just be twice as good, so there's no question I belong. That had been then. Now she was here, hidden in plain sight. Her file said logistics. Her reality was missions in Syria, Yemen, Somalia, 7 deployments that never officially happened. She was not supposed to exist, and if anyone learned the truth, her career would end, or worse. She lifted her fork, ate slowly, calm, measured, but she already knew something was wrong. Because across the mess hall, 4 men had been watching her. They weren't ordinary either. She'd read the look before, the particular swagger of SEAL candidates. Broad shoulders, confident smirks, still carrying the shine of men who hadn't yet been broken down by training, who hadn't tasted failure enough to doubt themselves. The leader, Wilson, tall, broad-shouldered, the son of a dead SEAL, legacy carried like armor and weapon both. His friends were easy enough to read. The thinker with restless eyes, the scrapper too quick to bristle, Park, quiet, cautious, half a step behind. Kept eating, fork steady, chewing slow, but her pulse quickened just enough for her to notice it. Wilson smirked at her from across the room, leaned toward his buddies, said something that made them laugh, and then, as if rehearsed, they stood, together, moving toward her table. Not yet threatening, not yet, but she could read body language as easily as others read words. The encirclement was classic, leader forward, wings at her sides, one trailing back. Intimidation dressed up as conversation. She thought about ignoring them, thought about walking away, but she couldn't because her cover was fragile, and fragile covers shatter when they look weak. "Morning, sailor," Wilson said when they arrived. His Texas drawl stretched into false friendliness. "Don't think we've seen you around here before. You new to Norfolk?" Looked up slowly, neutral expression fixed in place. "Just transferred, logistics specialist." Wilson's smile thinned. Logistics, important work, keeping the real sailors supplied. Snickered, smirked. Park shifted uncomfortably, clearly less convinced of this little performance. "Something I can help you with?" asked, her voice even. Wilson leaned on her table, knuckles pressing into the metal. His body blocked her path. "Just making conversation. My dad always said the Navy works best when everyone knows their proper place. Don't you agree?" The insult hung in the air like smoke. Didn't flinch, didn't move, didn't even blink. But her eyes noted everything: the tension in his shoulders, the poorly hidden knife at his back, the shift in stance as he edged to her left. Their instructor would have called it sloppy, amateurs playing at wolves. "I need to report for duty," said Standing. "Excuse me." Stepped slightly into her path, not blocking but enough. "What's the rush? We're just getting to know each other." "I know what you do," she replied quietly. "You're SEAL candidates, Phase 1, judging by your tabs." Wilson's smirk faltered for the briefest moment, then hardened. "That's right, the best of the best, or going to be anyway. Then you should know blocking a fellow sailor from her duties is against regulations." Her tone shifted just a fraction sharper. "Step aside, please." Sneered, "Listen to her, giving orders like she's an officer." "Lots of confusion these days," Wilson said. His smile turned mean. "Who belongs where?" The room had grown quieter. Conversation stilled. Sailors stopped pretending not to notice. Dozens of eyes waited. Ancient curiosity stirred, the question as old as campfires and rival tribes. What happens when the small is cornered by the large? His heart thudded once, heavy. This was the danger. Too many eyes, too much attention. Her mission required invisibility. Yet invisibility had already been burned away by 4 careless recruits. "Last chance," she said softly. "Step aside." Wilson's smirk widened. "Or what logistics? You gonna file a report?" And then his mistake. He reached for her arm. The room blinked, and when it opened its eyes again, 4 candidates were scattered like cards across the mess hall floor. It had taken less than 5 seconds. Wilson gasped for air on his knees, the breath knocked clean from his lungs by a perfectly placed elbow. Lay sprawled against him, tangled by his friend's momentum. Groaned on the floor, his legs swept from beneath him with surgical precision. Park stood frozen, hands raised, his face pale with disbelief. Stood calmly among them, barely breathing hard, uniform immaculate. She smoothed her sleeve, voice steady, quiet, almost polite. "I believe I mentioned," she said. "I have duties to attend to, excuse me." And then she walked away. Behind her, silence cracked into a low murmur of awe, disbelief, shock. Cell phones had already recorded everything. Within minutes, footage would ripple across the base, beyond the gates, into the hungry world outside. The story would take on a life of its own. At the edge of the hall, Captain Hamilton had watched it all unfold. His weathered face betrayed nothing, but inside he felt pride, concern, and a grim amusement. She had passed the test. She had also set fire to her cover. And near the kitchen doors, another man had been watching too, Master Chief. 22 years of combat experience in his eyes. He knew what he had seen. He would have questions, dangerous ones. Reed had survived another morning, but she knew the real danger was only beginning. Why had she let herself move that fast? That question sat heavy in his chest as she followed the corridor toward Captain Hamilton's office. She replayed the moment again and again, Wilson's hand reaching, her body reacting before her mind had time to command restraint. Years of drilling, reflexes sharpened to a razor's edge. She had fought for survival when survival hadn't really been at stake, and now the consequences were everywhere. The mess hall footage had spread like gasoline catching fire. By noon, whispers swept the base. By evening, grainy clips were all over social media, soldiers replaying the blur of motion, civilians speculating on the mystery sailor. Logistics specialist. No one bought it, not after what they'd seen. When she stepped into Hamilton's office, she braced herself. The air smelled faintly of coffee gone cold and lemon oil from the old pistol gleaming in a shadow box on the wall. The captain sat behind his desk, posture straight despite his years, his eyes fixed on her with the kind of silence that weighed more than words. "That wasn't very low-profile, Petty Officer Reed," he said at last. His voice carried no anger, just quiet gravity. Stood at attention, back straight, hands folded behind her. No, sir, it was. His gaze narrowed. Alternatives. Her eyes met his. Limited, sir. 4 men surrounded me. One reached for my arm. Walking away wasn't an option. For a long moment he said nothing, just studied her as if he could see not only what she'd done but what it cost her to admit it. Then he leaned back, exhaling slowly. You recognize the techniques you used. She allowed herself the faintest flicker of expression. Of course, they were yours. Hamilton gave a grim nod. I helped design them. He opened a drawer, removed a small electronic device and set it between them. With a click, it hummed faintly, jamming potential surveillance. Only then did he let the mask slip. I was briefed this morning, he said. I know who you are, what you really are. Her heart gave one hard beat, but her expression remained neutral. Years of practice kept her voice even. Then you know why I'm here. He nodded once. A leak. Advanced weapons technology finding its way into foreign hands. Someone here at Norfolk is selling out their country. His blue eyes hardened. But never explained to me why you. This isn't a combat operation. It's counterintelligence. That's not a SEAL's mission. Drew a breath. For a moment the weight of her double life pressed down, years of being unseen, years of lying with a smile. My cover as a logistics specialist gives me access, she said quietly. Supply chains, shipping manifests, personnel rosters, perfect position to watch without being watched. Hamilton tapped the desk once with a calloused finger. There are trained intelligence officers for that. Her lips curved, but it wasn't amusement, more like exhaustion. And everyone on this base knows them. The leak has survived multiple investigations. Whoever's behind it is smart, connected, careful. They needed someone unexpected. Silence lingered. He studied her the way a man might study a reflection of his younger self. Finally, he nodded. It makes a certain kind of sense. Sat, shoulders relaxing just slightly, but his next words landed heavy. Your display in the mess hall complicated everything. Noticed, and's no fool. Team 6, she murmured. He'll recognize the signatures. Already has, Hamilton replied. He'll play along for now, but he'll be watching you, carefully. Gave a small nod. The consequences were multiplying. And then Hamilton asked the question she had asked herself all morning. You could have walked away. Why didn't you? Her composure cracked just enough for heat to enter her voice. With respect, sir, 4 men surrounding a woman, blocking her path, laying hands on her. Walking away wasn't an option, not without undermining everything. He didn't answer immediately. He just looked at her, weighing the fire in her tone against the mission she carried. Finally, he leaned back. You're right, and you're wrong. In this line of work, sometimes swallowing pride keeps you alive. Sometimes it kills you. She nodded once. I understand, it won't happen again. The knock came then, sharp against the door. Hamilton shut off the jammer. His eyes flicked to hers, a silent warning. Enter, he called. The door opened and Master Chief stepped in. Compact build, sharp gaze, the kind of man who had lived too many missions to be deceived easily. His presence filled the room without effort. Captain, petty officer, he said, voice even. Then a faint smile curved his lips. Quite a performance this morning. Straightened. A regrettable incident, Master Chief. I reacted instinctively when confronted. Tilted his head, eyes narrowing. Instinctively. Interesting choice of word. Most logistics specialists don't instinctively perform takedowns. I've only ever seen from SEAL operators. Hamilton stepped in smoothly. Petty Officer Reed received enhanced CQB training during her deployment. Forward units were given extra instruction after Benghazi. Her service record confirms it. His gaze lingered, not convinced, not entirely, but willing to let the lie breathe. Must have been quite a program, he said slowly. Those were Team 6 protocols. Didn't blink. Post-Benghazi measures, Master Chief. Support personnel in sensitive regions were trained to defend themselves more aggressively. My unit was among them. Silence, then nodded, though his eyes still burned with quiet calculation. I see. He turned toward Hamilton. Your trainees are waiting, all four looking like they've seen a ghost. Hamilton's mouth tightened. I'll deal with them. Nodded, gave a final look that said I'm not done with you yet, and left. The door clicked shut. Hamilton exhaled through his nose. He doesn't believe a word of it. I know, said. Will he be a problem? Not yet, but he'll be watching closely. Hamilton stood, signaling the conversation's end. Report to logistics tomorrow. Begin your investigation. I'll manage and the trainees. Rose, thank you, sir. He paused at the door. Don't thank me. Your cover's already compromised. This just got harder. His eyes met hers, voice low and steady. Whoever's selling out this base has access, authority, and the instincts to dodge every net we've thrown. If they decide you're a threat, there won't be any safety net. For a heartbeat, silence held, then she nodded once. Understood, sir. When she left, the weight of his words stayed. The training room smelled of sweat and gun oil, the universal scent of soldiers in waiting. 4 recruits sat stiff in metal chairs, their pride cracked, their silence heavy. Wilson's jaw was clenched, still sore from the strike that had collapsed his lungs. Rubbed his shoulder, grimacing from where he'd hit the table. Glared at the floor, his anger unspent, simmering. Park sat apart, his face troubled, haunted by questions he hadn't yet voiced. The door opened. Hamilton entered. His presence carried the weight of decades, his silence sharp enough to cut. He said at last, voice steady, calm, but filled with authority. Would someone like to explain what happened in the mess hall this morning? No one spoke. Silence filled the room like fog. Wilson cleared his throat finally. Sir, we were just talking. Things got out of hand. Out of hand, Hamilton repeated, his tone flat. That's an interesting way to describe surrounding a fellow sailor, intimidating her, and initiating physical contact. Do I have that wrong? Shifted, we didn't mean disrespect, sir. Hamilton's eyes snapped to him. What exactly did you mean? More silence. Let me be clear, Hamilton said, his voice cut sharp. What I witnessed was 4 SEAL candidates behaving like schoolyard bullies. 4 men against 1 woman, relying on numbers, pressing for dominance. In what world does that align with the SEAL ethos? Wilson's jaw tightened. She's not a SEAL, sir, she's just. Hamilton stepped closer, eyes locking on his. She's a United States sailor, and you swore an oath to defend every one of them, regardless of gender, specialty, or size. The words landed like blows. On the wall behind him hung the SEAL ethos framed in glass. Hamilton gestured toward it. Uncompromising integrity is my standard. My character and honor are steadfast. My word is my bond. He turned back. Do those words mean anything to you, or are they just lines you memorized to pass training? Silence again. Wilson's fists tightened. The naval special warfare community has no room for what I saw today, Hamilton continued. You succeed not by crushing others, but by standing shoulder to shoulder with them. You value every skill, every perspective, because someday, one of those you dismissed might be the one who saves your life. His gaze locked on Wilson. Your father understood that. He died protecting his teammates, all of them. The words hit harder than any strike. Wilson flinched, eyes darting to the floor. Hamilton softened only slightly. Your father was a good man, one of the finest I served with. He died in because he put his team above himself. You carry his strength, his talent, but you do not yet carry his character. For a long time, Wilson said nothing. His jaw worked, but no words came. Hamilton let the silence stretch. Then finally he said, You're dismissed. Essays on the SEAL ethos, teamwork, integrity, respect. 15 pages each, due tomorrow. Groans rippled through the room. But then he added, and for the next 3 weekends, you will work in logistics under Petty Officer Reed's supervision. Shock replaced groans. Their faces hardened. "That is all," Hamilton said, dismissed. As they filed out, he stopped Wilson. "One moment." The others left, leaving Wilson stiff in his chair. Hamilton retrieved a worn photograph from his desk and placed it in the young man's hands. SEALs in dusty desert gear, arms slung over shoulders, sweat-streaked faces grinning. In the center, Wilson's father stood beside Hamilton. Hamilton said softly, "2 weeks before he died, he carried your picture in his helmet, said you were the reason he fought." Wilson's throat tightened. "I barely remember him." "Then remember this," Hamilton said. "He died because he refused to let his team die first. That's what strength looks like. That's the man you should aim to be." Wilson swallowed hard, nodding slowly. "Yes, sir." Hamilton's voice softened just enough to carry weight without anger. "Don't thank me. Prove me right." Wilson rose, photo still in his hand, and left the room. Hamilton sat in silence. He knew this was only the beginning. His cover was cracked. The recruits were pulled into a game they didn't understand. And somewhere on this base, a traitor was watching. The storm hadn't broken yet, but he could feel it gathering. Why were 2 SEALs broken on a shipment that was supposed to be untouchable? Reed stared at the containers in the warehouse, her clipboard balanced casually in one hand, her other gloved fingers tracing the faintest mark where tamper tape had been cut and resealed. Most eyes would have skimmed past it. She didn't. She couldn't. The warehouse buzzed with the rhythm of logistics, forklifts whining, sailors logging inventory, clerks printing manifests. To anyone watching, she was just another transfer with a stack of paperwork to manage. But beneath the surface of routine, she read the scene differently. Vulnerabilities, blind spots, the places where someone with skill could slip poison into the bloodstream of the Navy. The manifest in her hand claimed these parts were communications array elements. She knew better. The part numbers etched into the steel told a different story. Components for advanced radar systems capable of detecting stealth aircraft. Classified, sensitive, dangerous in the wrong hands. And they were being tampered with. She moved on, expression neutral, pencil scribbling as though she were just verifying counts. Inside, though, her pulse ticked harder. This was the first tangible lead proof that someone inside this base wasn't just stealing. They were sabotaging. "Reed." The voice pulled her back. She turned to find Chief Dawson standing a few feet away. Broad-shouldered, posture ramrod straight, eyes that carried the weight of 20 years' service. He wasn't smiling. "You're the new transfer from Wright." "Yes, Chief," she said evenly, slipping back into her cover's bland professionalism. "Reported yesterday." He studied her the way predators studied prey, not to attack, but to test. "Already making an impression, I hear. 4 SEAL candidates in the mess hall." His face didn't move. A misunderstanding, nothing serious. Dawson's lips twitched, not quite amusement. "Not what I heard. Word is you dropped 3 of them in under 10 seconds. Her tone didn't change. "They approached aggressively. I reacted based on my training." "Must have been some training." He gestured toward an office. "Walk with me." She followed him into a small room near the high-security section. Once the door shut, his posture shifted. Less supervisor, more veteran. Cut the crap," Dawson said flatly. "I spent 12 years in Force Recon before I came here. I know what operator moves look like. Whatever you did in that mess hall wasn't standard self-defense." For half a second considered denying everything. But men like Dawson couldn't be lied to cleanly. They'd lived too long in the shadows. They smelled deception the way bloodhounds smelled fear. So she gave him a half-truth, the kind designed to be swallowed but never fully digested. "After Benghazi, several forward units got enhanced CQB training," she said. "My team was one of them." Dawson's eyes stayed locked on hers, silence stretched. Finally, he leaned back slightly. "That the official line?" "Yes, Chief." He let the pause drag until it nearly broke. Then he smiled faintly. Interesting that your training looked exactly like SEAL takedown protocols. I can't speak to who the instructors were, replied smoothly. For a moment neither spoke. Then the office phone rang. Dawson picked it up, listened, then hung up. We'll finish this later. For now, I need you to inventory the shipment on the dock. High-priority components. Verify serials. Report any discrepancy immediately. Yes, Chief. As she left, he called after her. One more thing, Reed. Videos from this morning are all over social media. Your face is getting a lot of attention. She paused for just a second, enough to let the warning sink. Then she nodded once and left. That night she sat on the edge of her bunk, weapon cleaning kit laid out with precision. Routine steadied her, slide apart, barrel cleaned, springs checked, reassemble, slow and deliberate. The act kept her breathing even. But her mind wasn't calm. The situation had accelerated. Her cover was a shell with cracks spreading fast. Suspected. Dawson too. And now, with footage circulating outside the base, there was another danger: recognition. She had operated in places where cell phones were forbidden, but not always successfully. Somewhere in Syria, Yemen, Somalia, someone might connect her face to missions that officially never happened. The knock came, quiet but firm. She checked the peephole. Hamilton. She let him in. "Petty officer," he said quietly. His eyes moved over the bare room, the bed made to regulation, the desk cleared, no personal photos, nothing that revealed who she was beyond the uniform. A soldier's cell, a ghost's home. "Maintaining good weapon discipline, I see," he remarked, glancing at the disassembled pistol. "Always, sir." He sat, setting a small jammer on the table. Once it hummed, his voice lowered. "We've got a problem, someone tracking you." Her expression didn't shift, but inside she tightened. "Confirmed. Surveillance footage shows systematic monitoring of your movements since arrival. We don't know if they've identified you as an operator yet, but they're watching." Nodded once. Calm outside, calculation inside. "That doesn't bother me, it's the logical play. Force them to act, mistakes expose them." Hamilton's jaw worked. "Wants to use you as bait." Her eyes didn't flicker. "That's what I signed up for." "Don't be so damn calm about it," Hamilton snapped, then caught himself. His voice softened. "You're good. One of the best I've ever seen. But if they decide you're a threat, this won't be training scenarios. No medical team waiting, just bullets." Held his gaze. "I know, it doesn't change the mission." For a long moment silence lay between them. Then Hamilton sighed. "Has another idea, the trainees." Her brow arched slightly. "The 4 from the mess hall. He wants them working under you. In logistics, disciplinary action. It gives you cover to interact with them. Their curiosity about you will look natural." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "They're untrained, liabilities. They're SEAL candidates with something to prove. Properly directed, that can be useful, and I'll be overseeing." She exhaled slowly. "When do they start?" "Tomorrow, 700. She nodded once, understood. Hamilton hesitated at the door. "One more thing, got intel. The external contact may be Alexander." The name struck like ice water. She hid the reaction, but Hamilton caught it. "You know him," he said flatly. Her voice was low. "I know his work. I crossed his operatives in Eastern Europe. Ex-KGB turned private contractor. He sells to whoever pays highest. His people are disciplined, brutal." Hamilton's expression darkened. "If he's involved, this isn't just theft. It's war by another name." After he left, plugged the encrypted flash drive he'd given her into her laptop. 17 suspects scrolled across the screen: officers, enlisted, contractors, all with access, all with opportunity. One file made her pause. Lieutenant Commander Michael, polished service record, multiple commendations, 3 unexplained trips to Bangkok in the last year, officially regional conferences. But no conferences matched the dates. Her eyes narrowed. She flagged the file, not proof, not yet, but it smelled of rot. She leaned back in the chair, staring at the list of names. Somewhere in this stack was the traitor who had already slipped poisoned steel into America's arsenal. Somewhere in these walls, someone had compromised ships that would soon sail into contested waters. Outside, Norfolk's night was calm. Sailors moved along floodlit walkways, unaware of the shadow game playing above their heads, but knew the base was a chessboard, and she was a piece placed deliberately into play. The only question was whether she was the hunter or the bait. The next morning, 4 recruits filed into the warehouse with faces stiff and shoulders heavy. Wilson's jaw was set, but his pride was cracked. Eyes still carried doubt. Looked like he wanted to punch something. Park's gaze was downcast, guilt heavy in his posture. Stood waiting, clipboard in hand, uniform crisp, expression calm. "You'll be working logistics for the next 3 weekends," she said evenly. "Inventory, manifests, shipments, nothing glamorous, but important, understood?" "Yes, petty officer," they muttered. She studied them. She could see what Hamilton had meant. Raw talent, but unrefined, reckless, dangerous in the wrong ways. She would have to shape them without ever revealing why she cared. "Follow me," she said. As they trailed her into the rows of towering shelves, she felt the tension shift. Their resentment wasn't just about punishment. It was about her, about the unanswered question they carried like an itch under the skin. Who are you really? She ignored it for now. Instead, she walked them past the tampered containers, past the evidence she couldn't yet expose, past the heart of a conspiracy that threatened ships, sailors, perhaps even wars. She kept her tone calm, but inside a storm brewed. Because someone in this warehouse had already sold America's secrets, and if she didn't find them soon, it wouldn't just be her cover that burned. It would be lives, thousands of them. Why did the recruits keep glancing at her when they thought she wasn't looking? Knew the answer: curiosity, distrust, a cocktail of bruised pride and gnawing suspicion. They were still trying to make sense of the woman who had leveled them in seconds, the logistics specialist who moved like an operator. The warehouse was quiet except for the scrape of boxes and the low hum of fluorescent lights. Stacks of crates rose like walls, each stamped with serial numbers and barcodes, each a piece of America's defense puzzle. Said her voice steady, calm. "Manifest check, crate 729, read the seal." He grumbled but moved, muttering the numbers under his breath. Park trailed him, clipboard ready, handled the paperwork. Wilson hovered close, arms crossed, his scowl carved deeper than usual. "Seal's good," reported. "Serial?" asked. "Alpha Charlie 4792. Park scribbled it down, cross-checked. "Matches." "Good," said simply. She let them work, let them stew. She didn't need to confront their suspicion yet. Time would. Mistakes always revealed themselves. As she moved deeper between the shelves, her hand brushed lightly against a crate she'd flagged the night before. The tape had been replaced again. The faintest indentation in the wood pressure marks from a crowbar. Someone had been inside. Recently. Her pulse ticked faster, but she didn't react outwardly. Instead, she turned back to the recruits. "Wilson," she said. His head snapped up. "Yeah." Check crates on the south wall. Park, you're with me." They split without complaint, though Wilson's eyes lingered on her, sharp with suspicion. Led and Park toward the far row. She could feel his mind buzzing with questions. He was the thinker, the one who couldn't leave puzzles unsolved. And Park, his eyes carried something else: regret. When they reached the far crates, finally spoke. "Petty officer, can I ask you something?" "Depends on the question." He hesitated, then said it anyway. "How'd you do it? In the mess hall, 4 of us. We weren't exactly untrained." Didn't stop moving. She ran her fingers lightly over another crate seal. "Perfect. Untouched. I reacted to a threat, years of practice, that's all." Frowned, but it wasn't just practice. I've seen instructors run drills. I've never seen anyone move that clean. She met his gaze, her expression neutral. Some things don't need explanation. Park shifted uncomfortably. She doesn't have to answer. Ignored him. Wilson thinks you're more than you say. His eyes narrowed slightly. Wilson should focus on his training. She turned away before he could press further. But the truth wasn't wrong. They were circling her identity like wolves around a fire, curious but wary. If she wasn't careful, they'd burn through the lies and glimpse what lay beneath. That evening Hamilton called her into his office. Was already there, arms crossed, his gaze sharp as a blade. "Sit," Hamilton said. "Did posture perfect. Wasted no time. You've got them chasing inventory like clerks. That your plan? Turn SEAL candidates into pencil pushers." "They need discipline," said calmly. "Logistics teaches attention to detail. Overlook one serial number, one seal, one missing part, people die. If they can't focus here, they won't focus under fire." His eyes narrowed. That's SEAL philosophy. Funny thing for a logistics specialist to preach. Hamilton cut in before the tension snapped. "Enough, Master Chief. She's right. Attention to detail is part of the test." Leaned back unimpressed. "Details don't stop bullets." His voice was quiet but steady. "No, but details prevent them from being fired at you in the first place." The silence after that was sharp. Studied her like a hawk, but Hamilton's lips twitched faintly, almost approval. Finally spoke again. "One of those crates was tampered with last night." His eyes flicked up. "Which one?" 729 said, "Seal cut, resealed." She felt her pulse spike, though she kept her expression even. "I flagged that one yesterday." His brow furrowed. "Flagged it how?" "Visual anomaly," she said smoothly. "Tape didn't align. Wood showed pressure marks." For the first time, looked faintly unsettled. Not by her words, but by the realization that she'd noticed what his own men hadn't. Hamilton leaned forward. "We've set a silent alarm. If anyone tampers again, we'll know." Nodded once. "Good." His eyes narrowed further. "Tell me something, Reed. Where'd you learn to read signs like that? CIA, DIA, or someplace that doesn't exist on paper?" Held his gaze, calm, controlled. "I learned because people I served with didn't come home. Details matter. That's all you need to know." For a long moment silence stretched. Then stood, his voice low. "I don't buy your cover, but I'll say this, if you're on our side, you'd better prove it soon, because something is rotting on this base and I don't trust anyone." He left, the door shutting hard behind him. Hamilton rubbed his temples. "He's a good man, but he's relentless. Keep your distance." "Rose, distance won't keep him away. The only way through is forward." Hamilton looked up at her. "Just don't get reckless." Her lips tightened. "Reckless isn't in my vocabulary." She left before he could reply. 2 days later, the recruits were starting to crack. Wilson hated the work. Every crate, every manifest, every barcode scan was beneath him, and it showed. But his anger was being slowly reshaped into something else, frustration tempered by grudging respect. Because didn't complain. She didn't posture, she just worked. Relentlessly, efficiently, and she noticed everything. Muttered constantly, but he followed orders. Kept probing, his curiosity about her growing sharper by the day. Park was the quiet one, but his eyes watched her with something that looked almost like belief. On the third afternoon, she tested them. "South wall," she said. "2 crates are wrong, find them 10 minutes. Wilson scowled. "What do you mean wrong?" "Wrong seal, wrong serial, wrong weight. Doesn't matter, they're wrong, find them." The 4 exchanged uneasy looks, then scattered through the rows. 8 minutes later called out, "Here, seal been replaced." Shouted from another aisle, "This one's lighter than the manifest says." Checked both, correct. They'd found the anomalies. She nodded once. "Better." Wilson bristled. "That was a trick, you set it up." His gaze cut to him, steady, unwavering. No, that was the real world. Wrong crate in the wrong place means weapons don't arrive where they're needed, or bombs arrive where they shouldn't. Pay attention and you save lives. Miss it and people die. Simple as that. Wilson's scowl faltered. For the first time, he didn't have an answer. That night lay awake in her bunk, staring at the ceiling. The recruits were shifting, slowly, but her focus wasn't on them, it was on 3 unexplained trips, access to classified shipments, a pattern of movement that lined up too neatly with the tampered crates. She didn't have proof yet, but her instincts screamed. She pulled out the flash drive again, scanned the files. His name hovered like a shadow across the page. She remembered the villages burned, the children orphaned, the mercenaries who moved with mechanical precision. Wasn't sloppy. If he was involved, this leak wasn't just greed, it was strategy. And or whoever the mole was, wasn't acting alone. Her phone buzzed, a secure message. One line only, meet me at Pier 7, midnight. No sender, no signature. Stared at it, her muscles coiling. It could be the lead she needed, or the trap designed to finish her. Either way, she would go. The pier was quiet under the moonlight, the water black and still. Ships loomed like sleeping giants, floodlights casting sharp shadows across the decks. Moved silently, boots barely scuffing the wood. Every instinct screamed caution. Every sound, every ripple of water, every creak of rope made her finger itch for the weapon she carried under her jacket. Then she saw him, Park. The youngest of the recruits stood near the edge, hands shoved in his pockets, shoulders tense. He turned when he heard her, his face pale under the moonlight. "Petty officer," he said quietly, "thanks for coming." His eyes narrowed. "You sent the message." He nodded, swallowed. I needed to tell you something, but not where the others could hear." Her stance stayed cautious, but her voice softened just slightly. "What is it, Park?" He glanced around, then leaned closer. His voice dropped to a whisper. "I think someone watching you, not just us, someone else. And I think I know who." His pulse quickened, but her face remained calm, unreadable. "Go on." Park's eyes flicked to the shadows. Fear lingered there, real fear. "It's not one of us, it's an officer." Her suspicions crystallized, but before she could speak, footsteps echoed across the pier. Heavy, deliberate. Park froze, eyes snapped toward the shadows. And then a voice slid out of the darkness. Calm, cold. "You should have stayed in logistics, petty officer." How long had he been standing there, waiting? Didn't move, not yet. Her eyes adjusted to the dark, scanning the pier. The voice had come from the shadows near a stack of containers, the kind of place someone confident enough in his authority would linger without fear of being questioned. Lieutenant Commander stepped forward into the pale moonlight. Uniform crisp, posture easy, his face wearing the calm arrogance of a man who believed himself untouchable. Park stiffened beside her, caught between fear and the urge to speak. Hands stayed low at her side, fingers brushing the hidden weight of her weapon, but she didn't draw. Not yet. "Walking the pier at midnight, petty officer." His tone was almost casual, unusual for logistics. "Could say the same about you, sir," replied evenly. His smile was thin. "I like the quiet, helps me think." His eyes slid toward Park. "And you recruit, couldn't sleep." Park swallowed hard. "Just needed air, sir." His gaze lingered, calculating, then shifted back to, "Word is you've been keeping those 4 boys busy. Strange assignment for a new transfer, almost like you're testing them." "Logistics needs extra hands," said simply. "Captain Hamilton thought it best." "Of course." His tone was smooth, but his eyes sharpened. Hamilton always did have a soft spot for strays. Didn't answer. She let the silence hang. Confidence radiated like heat, but beneath it she sensed something else. He hadn't come here by accident. Someone had told him, or he had been watching. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Careful, petty officer. This base runs on balance. Push too hard, ask the wrong questions, balance breaks. and broken things are hard to fix. Her pulse ticked faster, but her face stayed calm. Understood, sir. Gave a faint smile, one that didn't reach his eyes. Good. Enjoy your walk. He turned, footsteps fading into the shadows, leaving the weight of his warning behind. Only when the silence settled again did turn to Park. His face was pale, his breathing sharp. You shouldn't have called me here, she said quietly. I had to, he whispered. I saw him near the crates, twice, checking seals when no one else was around. I didn't know who else to tell. Her voice softened but carried steel. Then you tell me, during the day, in the open, not like this. Understood. Park nodded quickly, guilt flashing across his face. Go back to your quarters, she said. Forget tonight happened. He hesitated, but... Now, Park. He obeyed, footsteps retreating, stayed behind, staring into the dark water. His words lingered, curling like smoke. Balance, broken things. She had confirmation now, but not proof. Not enough to bring him down, not yet. The next morning, the recruits filed into the warehouse, faces tired from drills, shoulders tense from unfinished sleep. Was already there, clipboard in hand, eyes cool. Work doesn't stop because you're tired, she said evenly. Inventory starts now. They groaned, but they moved. Even Wilson, though his resentment simmered. Park avoided her eyes, shame evident in his posture. Noticed, frowning, but said nothing. Muttered under his breath about being treated like pack mules. Wilson glared, his anger still burning. Let it all pass. She needed them focused on the crates, needed their attention sharpened. Wilson, she said, check seals on row D, you're with me. Park, manifests. They scattered, led down the row, her eyes flicking over crates without slowing. You're watching him, said quietly. Didn't look at him, who? His voice was low, cautious. You think he's dirty. His jaw tightened. I think you should focus on your work. Held her gaze. I'm not stupid, you're not logistics, and it's not clean. If you're going after him, you're going to need help. She stopped, turning sharply toward him. Her voice was steel. You don't want to be involved in this, believe me. He didn't flinch. Maybe I already am. For a moment, silence stretched, studied him. He wasn't reckless like Wilson or loud like. He was perceptive, too perceptive. Do your job, she said finally, voice soft but firm. That's the only way you help. He nodded reluctantly, but she could see the resolve in his eyes. He wouldn't let it go. That night Hamilton summoned her again. His office was dim, only the desk lamp casting light. Was there too, his arms crossed, expression hard. We've confirmed movements, Hamilton said quietly. Unscheduled visits to restricted areas, financials that don't add up, but nothing solid enough to nail him. He confronted me last night, said, on the pier. Hamilton's eyes narrowed. What did he say? That I should stay in my lane, stop asking questions. Muttered a curse. That's as close to a confession as you'll get from him. But not enough, said. If we move too soon, he slips away. Or worse, he accelerates whatever he's planning. Hamilton leaned back, rubbing his temple. Wants proof, something irrefutable. Then I'll get it, said. His eyes drilled into her. You keep talking like you're bulletproof. You're not. It's dangerous. And if it's behind him, you're not facing some greedy officer. You're facing a machine that's been dismantling nations for decades. Met his gaze. Then it's a machine that needs breaking. The silence afterward was heavy. Finally, Hamilton nodded once. Careful, both of you. 2 days later got her chance. The recruits were working manifests when a call came over the intercom. Lieutenant Commander requesting Petty Officer Reed's assistance in the restricted hangar. Her pulse sharpened. A test or a trap? She glanced at the recruits. Their eyes were on her, curiosity burning. Finish the manifests, she ordered. Don't leave until it's done. Then she left. The hangar loomed quiet, floodlights humming overhead. Aircraft parts rested under tarps, shadows stretching long across the concrete, stood near a crate, clipboard in hand. "Petty officer," he said smoothly, "good of you to come." Kept her posture neutral. "You needed inventory checked, sir." He smiled faintly, something like that. He gestured toward the crate. "Open it." She stepped forward, cautious. The lock was already cut. She lifted the lid. Inside were radar components, sensitive, classified, worth millions on the black market. But one piece was missing. His voice was soft, almost pleasant. "Imagine what someone would pay for technology like that. Imagine what kind of balance it could create or destroy." Closed the lid, turning toward him. "You're not imagining, sir. You're already selling." His smile widened just slightly. "Careful, petty officer. Accusations without proof, that's dangerous." She held his gaze, calm, controlled. "So is treason." For a long moment, silence stretched, then leaned closer, voice dropping. "You think you're the only one watching, the only one pulling strings. You're a piece on the board, read, nothing more." His pulse thudded, but she didn't flinch. "Pieces still matter," she said quietly, "especially when they move at the right time." His eyes narrowed. He studied her, measuring. Then he smiled again, thin and cold. "We'll see." He turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing across the hangar. Stood alone beside the open crate, her reflection caught in the steel. She had proof now, not written, not recorded, but real. Was the leak. The question was how to expose him without burning herself alive in the process. That night back in her bunk, sat in silence. Her weapon lay across her lap, cleaned and ready. The flash drive glowed faintly in her laptop. His file hovered on the screen. She thought of the recruits, Wilson's pride, questions, Smutters, Park's guilt. They were young, but they were hers now in a way, pulled into a game they didn't understand. She thought of Hamilton, tired, steady, holding a line that grew thinner by the day. Relentless, suspicious, yet grounded in loyalty. And smiling in the shadows, selling the nation piece by piece, confident that no one could touch him. Closed her eyes. The path ahead was dark, but one thing was clear. The balance spoke of. It was already broken. And she was going to be the one to shatter what remained. Why was the warehouse so quiet? Paused at the entrance, the usual buzz of forklifts and chatter replaced by a stillness that pressed against her chest. The recruits were inside. She could see their silhouettes between the rows of crates. But something about the silence felt wrong. Too careful. Too staged. She moved in. Wilson and were by the manifests, parked near the far aisle, crouched by a crate seal. Their heads snapped up at once. "Petty officer," Wilson said, his tone edged with unease. "We found something." Crossed the floor, her boots whispering against concrete, gestured at the crate before him. "Seal looks clean, but the weight's off. Manifest says 300 pounds. Feels lighter." She crouched, pressing her fingers along the edge of the tape. Perfect alignment, too perfect. Her knife slid under the adhesive, lifting it without tearing. Inside, empty foam casing. No hardware, no radar parts. Nothing. Her stomach tightened. This wasn't just tampering. This was extraction. Someone had already taken the contents, quietly, efficiently, under their noses. "When did you log this crate?" she asked. 2 days ago, said. "It was full then, I checked." His jaw locked. It had to be. Wilson frowned. "So what's missing?" "Classified hardware," she said flatly. "If it's gone, it's already moving down a pipeline we won't see until it's too late." Swore under his breath. "And you knew this was happening." Stood, clipboard snapping shut. "I knew there was a leak. Now we know what's leaking." Park's face paled. "Petty officer, what do we do?" She looked at them. 4 recruits who thought they were here for punishment, now standing at the edge of a conspiracy that could fracture the Navy. "You do your jobs," she said firmly. "Inventory every crate in this row. Log every weight, every seal, every number, and don't breathe a word about what's missing. Not to anyone, understood?" They hesitated. Wilson scowled, muttered, looked thoughtful. Park nodded too quickly. Understood, they echoed. Turned away, her mind already racing. She needed Hamilton. Needed to turn suspicion into actionable proof before slipped further into the shadows. Hamilton's office was dim, blinds drawn. The old commander looked older than usual, fatigue etched into his face, was already there, looming like a storm cloud. They pulled a full unit out of crate 729, reported. Gone, clean extraction. Hamilton swore under his breath, eyes narrowed, how clean. No broken seals, no visible marks. Whoever did it knew exactly what they were looking for. He muttered. Nodded, almost certainly, but I didn't catch him in the act. We need him with his hand inside the fire, not just the smoke. Hamilton leaned back heavily. This network specializes in this, silent removal. By the time we notice, the parts are halfway across the world. His voice was steady. Then we don't just notice, we bait. His brow arched, bait. They've been watching me since I arrived. Knows I'm circling. He'll push harder now before I get too close. If we plan a shipment, something valuable, something tempting, we can force his hand. Hamilton frowned. That's dangerous. Didn't flinch, so is doing nothing. Silence hung heavy, then lips curled into something like a grin. I like it. Give him a prize, see if he grabs. Hamilton exhaled slowly. You're walking a razor's edge, Reed. One slip and he buries you. Met his gaze, calm, steady. Then I won't slip. The decoy shipment arrived 2 nights later, a crate marked as advanced targeting components. Inside, inert parts with just enough resemblance to fool a quick inspection. Oversaw the offload, clipboard in hand, recruits assisting. Wasn't there, but she could feel his shadow in the air. Someone was watching. Wilson, she ordered, double-check the seals, manifest, weigh the crate. Park, log the time of arrival. They moved, each grumbling in their way but efficient. She watched them, reading more than their actions, reading how far they'd come. Wilson's defiance was still there, but his motions carried precision. Muttered less, hands steadier. Sharp eyes missed nothing. Park was nervous but obedient. They were changing. She hadn't meant to shape them, but they were watching her more than they knew. Leaned closer as they worked. This crate, it's different. You set this up, didn't you? Didn't look at him. Do your job. But his whisper lingered. You're not just here for logistics, I know it. She didn't answer, couldn't, but she saw the spark in his eyes. The recruits were part of this now, whether she wanted them or not. That night the silent alarm tripped. Hamilton's voice came over the secure line, clipped and tense. Warehouse breach, south sector, move now. Was already moving, boots hitting pavement, weapon strapped beneath her jacket. Floodlights washed the warehouse in stark white. Shadows shifted between rows. She entered low, silent, eyes scanning. A figure crouched near the decoy crate, bolt cutter in hand. Not one of his proxies. His pistol was out before the man could cut. Don't move. He froze, then dropped the cutter, but his other hand darted for his waistband. The shot was instinct, one round, center mass. The man dropped, weapon clattering. His team swarmed in seconds, securing the scene. Hamilton arrived moments later, face grim. Not spat, just a pawn. Crouched, searching the man's pockets, a burner phone. She powered it down instantly, pocketing it. Pawn or not, he was here for the bait. Connected. Hamilton's eyes met hers, and now nose were onto him. Exhaled slowly. Good, then he'll have to move faster. Faster means mistakes. 2 days later the base was buzzing. Rumors of a breach rippled through corridors. Officially, it was an attempted theft of standard equipment. Unofficially, everyone was whispering. Kept her head down, working the warehouse with the recruits, but tension simmered. Wilson finally snapped. This isn't punishment detail anymore. Something going on. We're not stupid. Didn't look up. You're here to learn discipline. That's all you need to know. Spoke quietly but firmly. That's not true, you're chasing someone, we saw the alarms, we heard the gunshot. Muttered, hell, I'd rather know what game we're in than keep guessing. Park said nothing, eyes darting nervously. Stopped writing, setting the clipboard down. She looked at them, 4 young men, raw, reckless, but not blind. They deserved something, not the whole truth, but enough to anchor them. There's corruption on this base, she said evenly. Classified tech has been stolen. People higher than you think are involved. My job is to find who and stop them. Your job is to stay alive, and to do what I tell you without question. Understood? Shock rippled across their faces. Wilson's defiance faltered. Suspicion hardened into determination. Muttered a curse. Park looked almost relieved, as if truth, any truth, was a burden lifted. They nodded slowly. Pick the clipboard back up. Good, now get back to work. That night sat alone, the burner phone from the dead thief lying on her desk. She powered it up, shielding the screen from cameras. Messages scrolled, coordinates, times, payments, and one name in Cyrillic. Her chest tightened. The shadow had moved closer. A knock at the door startled her. She shut the phone off instantly, sliding it into a drawer. Enter, she called. Park stepped inside, hesitant. His eyes darted toward the desk, then back to her. Petty officer, I just wanted to say I won't tell anyone about what you said earlier. I know it's not my place, but I trust you. Studied him, young, scared, yet brave enough to speak. Then prove it, she said quietly. By doing your job, by staying sharp. Park nodded. Yes, petty officer, he hesitated. Be careful. He left, sat back, exhaling slowly. Trust was dangerous, but necessary. She opened the drawer again, staring at the phone. His name burned like fire across the screen. The game had changed, wasn't the end. He was just the opening move. The real enemy was coming. Why did the air feel heavier that morning? Walked into the warehouse and knew before she saw them something had shifted. The recruits were at their stations, but their movements were sharper, eyes restless. Wilson's jaw was tight, muttering under his breath, unusually quiet, Park pale with nerves. She set her clipboard down. Report. Glanced at Wilson, then stepped forward. 2 men came by last night. Civilians, said they were contractors, asked about Crate Rose. We didn't tell them anything, but his brow furrowed. It didn't feel right. Stomach nodded. Civilians on a secure base, unlikely. More likely scouts, testing the edges. Did you report it? She asked. Wilson bristled. To who? Nobody listens to us. We're just recruits on punishment duty. Wrong, said sharply. You're the first line of eyes on this warehouse. That makes you critical. If someone slipped past you, they slipped past all of us. Wilson clenched his jaw but didn't argue. Muttered, so what are they after now? Didn't answer, not yet. She moved through the rows, scanning crates, fingertips brushing seals. Every detail mattered. She found nothing amiss, but that only deepened her unease. The predators were circling. She could feel them. Later that day, Hamilton called her in. His face was grim, the blinds in his office drawn tight. Stood in the corner, arms crossed, a coiled presence. We intercepted chatter, Hamilton said. Russian dialects, Norfolk mentioned by name. His network knows exactly where to look. His chest tightened, and his eyes narrowed. Still too clean on paper, but he's our conduit. Doesn't get a whisper of our manifests without someone feeding him. Hamilton leaned forward. You stirred the nest, Reed. Good, but now they're moving faster. We need to know if we're looking at theft or an attack. His voice was low, steady. Both. Hamilton studied her. You sound certain. I know, she said. He doesn't just take, he tests, weakens, then strikes. Silence settled, heavy as lead. Finally Hamilton said, then we prepare for the strike. Preparation meant nights of exhaustion. Ran drills until the recruits nearly collapsed, hammering into them the fundamentals of security. Watched them adapt, her corrections quiet but relentless. cursed through push-ups. Wilson bristled but executed with precision. His mind raced, cataloging every scenario. Park tried hardest of all, driven by something between fear and faith. Late one night, as they sat in the warehouse surrounded by crates, finally spoke what they were all thinking. They're coming here, aren't they? Didn't sugarcoat, yes. Swore, and what the hell are we supposed to do about that? We're not operators, we're not. Your sailors cut in. Recruits, yes, but sailors, and sailors hold the line no matter what comes. Wilson scoffed. Easy for you to say, you're not afraid. Her eyes snapped to him. I'm afraid every damn day. The silence that followed was sharp, unexpected. Her voice softened but carried weight. Fear keeps you alive. The difference is what you do with it. You let it own you or you learn to carry it. That's the choice. For once, Wilson had no reply. 3 nights later, the alarm tripped. Warehouse breach, silent south entry. Moved first, recruits scrambling after her. His team was minutes out, Hamilton already alerted, but she knew minutes mattered. Inside, the lights were out. Emergency strobes pulsed red, painting the rows in harsh flashes. Shadows shifted between the crates, more than one intruder. Raised her weapon, voice low. Stay behind me, eyes open. Wilson muttered, hell no, we can fight. Behind me, she snapped. Her tone cut steel, and even Wilson obeyed. The first intruder emerged, masked, weapon raised. Fired once, dropping him clean. 2 more figures darted between crates. Swore, ducking low. Park's breath hitched sharp in the dark, pressed against a crate, wide-eyed but steady. Moved with precision, her shots sharp, controlled. Another intruder fell, but more poured in, 5, 6, too many. She shifted, covering the recruits. Her voice was calm, steady, almost gentle. Stay low, stay alive. Gunfire cracked, echoing in the cavernous space. A bullet sparked off steel inches from. Park yelped. Wilson dragged him down, shoved a crate for cover. His pulse pounded. She was outnumbered. They were too exposed. And then's team crashed in. Doors burst, floodlights flared, operators moving like a tide. Gunfire roared, then cut, leaving only echoes and smoke. Silence returned. The recruits were shaken, pale but alive. Holstered her weapon, scanning the fallen intruders. Foreign gear, Russian markings, confirmation. Stalked past, muttering, "Swolves, no doubt now." Hamilton arrived moments later, face grim. He met's eyes. They didn't just steal, they came to kill. Nodded once, voice steady. Then we hit back. Afterward, the recruits sat in silence outside the warehouse, shock still clinging to them. Lit a cigarette with shaking hands. Wilson stared at the ground, jaw clenched. His fingers tapped restless patterns against his knee. Park just breathed, long and shaky. Joined them, lowering herself onto the curb. No orders now, no corrections, just presence. They weren't here for crates, she said softly. They were here for anyone in the way, that includes you. Wilson finally looked up. So we're targets now. You always were, said. His voice was quiet but certain. You're not just a sailor, you're something else. Special operations, maybe even SEAL. Didn't confirm, didn't deny. She let the silence answer for her. Exhaled smoke. So what happens now? His eyes turned toward the dark water beyond the docks. Her voice was low, steady. Now, we wait for the next move, and we be ready. That next move came sooner than expected. 2 days later, Hamilton briefed them in a locked room, loomed at his side. The recruits were there too, seated stiffly, eyes wide. Intel confirms network has activated assets inside Norfolk, Hamilton said. Not just others. Their target isn't just tech anymore, it's personnel. They want someone specific. Frowned who? Hamilton's eyes flicked too. The room went still. Wilson's brow furrowed, swore softly. Park's face drained of color. Sat perfectly still, her expression unreadable. So they know. His voice was gravel. They know enough and they'll come again, harder. Hamilton leaned forward, voice heavy. "We're pulling strings to contain it, but the reality is this. If they want Reed, they'll burn the whole base down trying." The recruit shifted, stunned. His voice broke the silence. "So what do we do?" Finally spoke, her tone soft but cutting. "We don't run, we don't hide, we prepare. Because when they come, and they will, the only thing between them and victory is us." Her eyes met theirs, steady, fierce. And for the first time, they didn't look away. That night sat alone in her bunk, staring at the burner phone still locked in her drawer. His name burned across her thoughts, his shadow stretching long from across the ocean. She thought of the recruits, their fear, their defiance, their questions. She thought of Hamilton's weary resolve, his relentless suspicion. She thought of, still smiling in the dark, still moving unseen. And she thought of herself, the girl who had once whispered through cracked lips, "Then I'll just be twice as good." Now the test was coming again, not in the mud of training, but in fire and blood. Her eyes closed, her breathing slowed, and one truth steadied her. Sometimes survival wasn't enough. Sometimes the only way through was to become the storm. Why was the base so quiet on a night when it should have been alive with drills? Walked the corridors with the weight of silence pressing down on her chest. Every shadow stretched too long, every door creaked too loud. The recruits were asleep, or trying to. His men were scattered across the perimeter. Hamilton was in the command post, waiting. She, meanwhile, was bait. The burner phone had chimed hours earlier. A final message, coordinates, time, midnight. The handwriting of network's move. Strapped her weapon beneath her jacket, slid the flash drive into her pocket, and walked out into the Norfolk night. The warehouse was dark when she entered. Only the strobing security light above the main door flickered, painting the rows of crates in broken flashes. The smell of oil and steel clung to the air. She moved down the aisle, boots soundless against concrete. Her hand brushed crate edges, instinctively checking seals. All intact, too intact. Wouldn't need to steal anymore. Tonight wasn't about crates. It was about her. "Petty Officer Reed." The voice drifted from the shadows, calm, confident. She turned, stepped into the light. Uniform perfect, posture relaxed, eyes sharp with triumph. "You've been busy," he said. "Chasing shadows, stirring ghosts. You should stayed small, quiet, logistics." His voice was even. "You sold them out, your own, for what?" His smile was thin. "For balance. Nations tilt. Empires rot. Men like they don't follow flags, they follow inevitability. I chose to be on the winning side." Her jaw tightened. That side kills without hesitation, burns without reason. "And yet it wins," said. "History doesn't remember the men who followed rules. It remembers those who shaped them." "History also buries traitors," replied quietly. His eyes narrowed. "Then you'll be buried first." From the shadows behind him, men emerged. 5, 6, masked, silenced weapons, wolves. His pulse spiked, but her face stayed calm. Her hand slid to her pistol. Then a voice, sharp, familiar. "Petty Officer." From the side entrance, 4 figures burst in. Wilson, Park. No weapons but what they'd scrounged, a crowbar, a wrench, a steel pipe. Faces pale but jaws set. His heart clenched. Damn it, they shouldn't be here. Smile widened. "So the children want to play." The first shot cracked, Dove pulling her recruits down. Bullets sparked off steel, ricocheting, crates splintered. Shadows screamed gunfire. She moved fast, precise. 2 shots, 2 wolves down, but more closed in, too many. Wilson swung the crowbar, catching one across the face. Lunged with the wrench, desperate, wild. Yanked Park back, dragging him into cover. Chaos, fire, smoke. His pistol barked until it clicked empty. She dropped it, grabbing a fallen rifle, firing again. Every shot measured, every move calculated. She fought not just for herself, but for the 4 reckless recruits who had followed her into fire. Watched from the shadows, untouched, smiling, always smiling. The fight stretched, seconds bleeding into eternity. One wolf grabbed Park, dragging him toward the exit, pivoted, firing, dropping him clean. Park stumbled free, eyes wide with terror and awe. Finally, silence. Smoke hung heavy. Bodies sprawled across concrete. Only remained, stepping forward slowly, pistol in hand. "You think you've won?" His voice was calm, almost pitying. "Doesn't lose, he replaces, he rebuilds. You kill one arm, another reaches. You can't stop what's already moving." Raised her weapon steady. "Maybe not, but I can stop you." Smile faltered for the first time. The shot echoed sharp. His body hit the floor, pistol clattering away. Lowered her rifle, chest heaving. The recruit stared, stunned. Wilson's jaw was slack, crowbar still clenched. Muttered something in Spanish, voice shaking. Just stared at her, realization dawning. Park whispered, "You're not just logistics, you never were." Met their eyes, steady, fierce. "No, I was." By dawn, the base was sealed. Hamilton sat in his office, exhaustion carved into his features. Stood in the corner as always, his arms crossed but his gaze less hard than usual. "'S dead," Hamilton said. "Cell here is broken, but this isn't over. The network runs deeper than Norfolk." Nodded, "It always does." Studied her. "You held the line, against odds that should killed you, and you kept 4 recruits alive doing it." His eyes flicked to the door where Wilson and Park waited to give statements. Young men, shaken but alive, changed forever. "They held it with me," she said quietly. Hamilton's voice was heavy. "They'll never see you for what you are, not officially. Paper will say logistics, nothing more." "That's fine," said. "I don't need the paper." Silence settled, soft but certain. Finally spoke, his voice low. "So what now?" His eyes turned to the window, where the morning sun bled across the docks, light breaking the darkness. "Now," she said quietly, "we wait for the next fight and we stay ready." That evening, the recruits found her outside, sitting on the pier where she'd once confronted Park. The water rippled gold under the setting sun. Wilson sat first, awkward, scratching the back of his neck. "You saved us," he muttered. "Guess I was wrong about you." Lit a cigarette, exhaled smoke. "Wrong doesn't even cover it." His voice was soft, thoughtful. "You're the kind of sailor they write stories about, but nobody's allowed to read them." Park just sat quietly, staring at the water. After a long silence, he whispered, "Thank you." Looked at them, young, raw, by a night they'd never forget. "You don't owe me thanks," she said softly. "You owe yourselves discipline, strength. The choice to stand when standing feels impossible. That's what will carry you through." They were quiet, each turning her words over like stones in their palms. The sun dipped lower, the air cooled. Stood, her silhouette dark against the water. "You'll go back to your paths," she said. "Maybe you'll forget me, maybe you won't. But remember this, strength doesn't come from being unbroken. It comes from being broken and still standing." She walked away, boots steady on the pier. The recruit sat in silence, watching her go. Later, alone in her quarters, opened her locker. Inside lay the flash drive, the burner phone, her weapon cleaned and ready. Relics of the storm. She sat on the bunk, staring at the floor. Memories pressed heavy, villages burned, comrades lost, his cold smile, his shadow stretching still across oceans. Her chest rose and fell slow. Her hands trembled once, then steadied. She thought of the recruits, of their faces in the strobe-lit chaos, of their defiance, their fear, their survival. And she thought of herself, a Navy SEAL hidden in plain sight, a soldier carrying ghosts but still walking forward. The night outside was quiet again. The storm had passed, for now. Her eyes closed. Sometimes dignity doesn't shout, doesn't demand, doesn't beg. Sometimes dignity just stands, holds the line, acts. And that was enough.